I basically stopped listening to his lectures, and only followed the material at that point. What is the most hilariously incorrect thing a teacher told your class? If a bug was in an airplane, it would not be able to fly forward because it could not fly faster than the plane was moving. They were relatively wrong. Past tense of drink is dranked. This is what can happen in English class when the teacher's first language is not English. That a Big Mac from McDonald's overwhelms your stomach with so much of everything that it doesn't register you've eaten anything, and that's why you get hungry again so quickly after. Computer teacher told us if you use cut on an image on a website, that it will be removed from the website and will upset the website maker, so be sure to use copy. A teacher of mine told us that the left side of your body is your feminine side, the right side is your masculine side. That's why your skin is better on your left, your right is stronger, etc. God, what the hell? The teacher put materials from plants and materials from animals on a board. We could not convince her that wool was not a plant. My grade 6 teacher told me that fatigued was in fact not a word when I used it in a short story, and insisted that I looked in the dictionary. Found it in the dictionary in about 2 minutes and proved her wrong in front of the whole class. Science teacher, during the sex ed portion of the year, said all penises are the same size when it counts, i.e. when erect. Classmate then asked why boobs can be different sizes, but the penis is the same for all men. Teacher then said she didn't know, and that would be a question she would ask St. Peter when arriving at the pearly gates. I have a feeling the science teacher never saw more than one erect penis. While teaching Japanese history, my teacher was entirely convinced that the suicide of a Japanese samurai was called Sudoku instead of seppuku. Your teacher is correct. The shamed samurai carved 81 squares into his chest before meticulously painting the numbers 1 through 9 on his chest in a difficult-to-discern pattern. The samurai would often die part-way through the process. To restore his honor, the family would have to finish the pattern before burial. When I was in kindergarten, our homework assignment was to ask our parents what country they were from so the teacher could show us on the globe where it was. Younger me was so excited. I went home and asked my mom where she was born, and she told me her family was from Malaysia. All day I practiced and practiced. I couldn't wait to share this info with my teacher. When I went to school the next day, I told my teacher that my mom is from Malaysia. With a look of utter disappointment, my teacher informed me that Malaysia was not a country, and I needed to ask my mom again. I was crushed that my mom would lie to me like that. Or that she was wrong. Either way, little me cried to her and told her that my teacher said Malaysia is not a country. So Mama was not happy that I was told this and came with me to school the next day to give the teacher a piece of her mind. To this day I've never seen my mother get so red in the face while yelling at my teacher. After she was through, I quickly got an apology, and a geography lesson on where Malaysia was. When transferring schools. Teacher, so you're from Mexico? Me, no, I'm from New Mexico. Teacher, got it, so you're Mexican. Was the student visa program difficult? Me, no visa needed. I'm from New Mexico, it's between Texas and Arizona. Teacher, did you live near cartels? This was an American history class in high school. I was once told in a religious studies class that black people are God's mistake. She was fired not long after. Edit, she wasn't Mormon, it was a Jewish studies class and she was Jewish. Also, as a proud Jew, I feel like I should point out that this is very much not the view of Judaism or of most Jews. She was just a bit insane. Also, I don't believe this stemmed from an underlying belief that God can make mistakes, but just a lack of understanding of Judaism and of common sense. I grew up in England but did part of my high school in the US. One of the teachers there organized a thing where we volunteered to read stories to elementary school kids. After reading my story, I guess the teacher felt the need to make note of my accent to the class. She asked me to tell the kids where I was from. I said, I'm from England, and she did that thing teachers do where she repeats the info to the kids, but she says, did you hear that, kids? She's from England, that's in London. I tried a little bit of a correction, actually, I'm from England, and she just repeats to the kids, yes kids, England, that's in London. I was too shy at that age to call her out on it, but it still makes me cringe to this day. That Tsarina was the first name of the wife of Tsar Nicholas II of Russia and not her title. She understood that Tsar was Nicholas's title and not his name, but could not apply the same logic to Alexandra. She insisted that Tsarina was her given name, and no amount of arguing would change her mind. I'm still annoyed about this 20 years later. We got taught in science that our tongues have different areas of taste. Had to do an experiment where we put a sugar cube, lemon on different parts of the tongue, etc. Supposedly we had a sour area, a sweet area, and so on. So putting lemon on the sweet part of your tongue would mean it wouldn't taste sour, bitter. Well, I spent that whole experiment thinking it didn't matter where I put it, it all tasted the same. I said that and the teacher looked at me like I was being purposefully disruptive. The rest of the class said it worked. I figured something was wrong with my tongue. Years later I heard they debunked that theory. Edit, just want to add, a lot of you are mentioning kindergarten. We got taught this in high school. I am being serious. Granted it was early high school, so ages 12 to 13-ish, but still. I'm English, so maybe in England we learn fake science later in life. One of my secondary school teachers announced to his class that you couldn't see the Southern Cross star pattern from the Southern Hemisphere. As students questioned his statement, he made each one stand in the corridor outside the classroom. With most of the class standing in the corridor, the principal walked past and asked why we were all there. After a short explanation, the principal asked the teacher to come to his office and gave the class free time. If I recall correctly, we didn't see the teacher for a few days and then he returned to admit his mistake. First I thought about how a nun that was teaching religion in my first grade said that if you put your hands to prayer facing downward you will go to hell, and if upwards you will go to heaven. But then I thought, who am I to say she was wrong? Edit, for everybody asking, Australians go to hell no matter what they do, it's obvious and the scripture says so anyway. One of my first teachers told the class that the sea is blue because it's a reflection of the sky. That same teacher, later in the year, told the same class that the sky was blue because it was a reflection of the sea. We lived on land, the sky should be green or brown, the sea, being only a reflection of a reflection, should be copying that green or brown. I pointed this out, began to present the correct answer, and was promptly sent out of the room for being disruptive. I moved to a very white rural town. I think less than 5% of the school was something other than white. Our English teacher was bragging about how she had been around Mexicans before, and was pretty good at knowing their words. She said this because we were reading a story about two Mexican boys in the city. She said she could explain anything to us if we had questions. Reading out loud, a kid got stuck on the word essay. She quickly interjected, "Oh, I think you pronounce it EC, I think they just made it up, like their own nickname. I am Mexican. It's pronounced like essay, and it's equal to bro or man." The actual text read, "What's up essay?" The worst part was it had an asterisk next to it, and said what it was off to the side. College professor told the class that men who get married under the age of 25 are only doing it for sex, and any man over 25 who isn't married is addicted to porn. That's why they aren't married. He also at another time said he would never let any of his brothers watch his kids, because statistically uncles are more likely to molest their nieces or nephews. I really wish I would have asked him at that time if his brothers ever had kids, if he would refuse to watch them for the same reason. I basically stopped listening to his lectures, and only followed the material at that point. Not my class, but I wanted to do an experiment for a science fair type thing on animal behavior in high school. I had one of my science teachers try to tell me that animal behavior isn't real science, and that I needed to pick something else. Even as a high school kid I knew this was bullshit. I was like, today I learned that Skinner and Goodall aren't real scientists. Oddly enough, in college I had two advisors who were very interested in animal behavior, and I ended up doing a pilot study for undergrad where I studied toy preference in captive tigers. Despite having passed my school's IACUC, the State Academy of Science denied me a grant for not having a realistic study, because where was I going to find tigers in our state? I wonder if someone from that committee was in the audience for my presentation, because a lot of questions focused on where I had access to captive tigers, a private sanctuary 20 minutes from my house that had almost 20 Bengal and Siberian tiger on the property. Everyone in my study was bred in TX and assigned numbers since some were from abuse cases. Now I work as a veterinary nurse, and have special certifications for fear-free and low-stress handling practices which relies heavily on animal behavior, the non-science.
Like and subscribe for more funny, interesting, and scary r/ask Reddit videos.